The morning light had barely kissed the skyline of New Avalon when the world as everyone knew it began to unravel. Streets once filled with the ordinary hum of commuters and laughter at playgrounds now trembled with a disquiet that no one could place. Amid the steady rhythm of daily routines, an eerie silence hinted at an impending storm. Commander Lena Reyes had just stepped out of her modest apartment building on the edge of the city when she noticed something off. A shimmering column of light descending from the heavens. It sliced through the blue with unnatural precision. At first, residents assumed it was a spectacular new advertisement or a drone show, but as it grew brighter and descended lower, panic surged in the air. In a matter of minutes, the column revealed its true nature. A sleek, alien craft, its surface a mirror of shifting metallic hues. People on the streets stopped, their eyes wide in disbelief. Children, playing in scattered clusters, found themselves drawn toward the brilliance as if compelled by an unseen force. Within seconds, shrill cries filled the air. A child's plea, a mother's scream, an unexplainable pull was sweeping the innocent away. Lena's heart pounded. She clenched her fists as the crowd's murmurs turned to shouts. "Stay back! Run!" someone yelled, but it was too late. In a flash, several children were enveloped by the light and lifted upward, disappearing into the craft like motes of dust in the wind. For a suspended heartbeat, the world stood still. Then chaos erupted. Vehicles screeched to a halt, and the streets filled with frantic running and desperate calls. Staring at the empty space where joyful laughter had just echoed, Lena felt a cold shock. Memories of her own child's wide-eyed wonder danced in her mind, and the thought of losing them ignited a fire of resolve. "This isn't just an attack," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the clamor. "It's a message." Without waiting for orders, Lena darted into the nearest command center, a repurposed municipal building now buzzing with frantic officials and trembling citizens. There, amid scattered papers and blinking consoles, she found a mixture of terror and determination. A seasoned officer glanced up, his eyes meeting hers in mutual understanding of the gravity that had descended upon them. In hushed, hurried tones, the officials spoke of anomalies detected in the craft's energy signature, something unlike any known weapon or phenomenon. "They came without warning," one whispered, his voice thick with disbelief. "They took our children." The unfinished sentence hung heavily in the air, a shared grief that bound them all together. As reports continued to pour in, Lena's mind raced through possibilities. Who were these beings? Why target the young, the future of humanity? The mystery deepened as she recalled fragments of intercepted transmissions earlier in the day, snatches of alien language that hinted at a plan far more sinister than a random act of terror. It was as if the invaders sought to reshape destiny by erasing its most promising seeds. Determined to find answers, Lena took charge. "We must move," she commanded quietly but firmly, addressing a small group of officers who gathered around her. "Every moment counts. We need to secure the area and find survivors, and we need to know what they want." Her tone was resolute, her eyes burning with a mixture of grief and defiance. Outside, the city's heartbeat throbbed with uncertainty. Hordes of citizens congregated near the epicenter, their faces etched with shock and despair. Over the distant wail of sirens and the crackle of emergency broadcasts, Lena's thoughts drifted to the children now missing, each one a beacon of hope and promise. Their disappearance was not merely a loss, it was an attack on the very future of humanity. As dusk approached, the alien craft hovered silently above the city like a dark omen. Shadows lengthened, and the once familiar streets now felt alien in their desolation. Lena stood on a rooftop overlooking the chaos, her mind churning with questions. In that quiet moment between terror and determination, she vowed that humanity would not yield. The day the children were taken was the day humanity's true fight for its future began. Even as night fell and the craft remained suspended against the starry sky, the seeds of resistance were already being sown. In every whispered conversation, every determined step taken through darkened alleys, and in the steadfast gaze of those who had lost everything, there burned a fierce promise. Humanity would reclaim its future, no matter the cost. The city that once thrummed with the pulse of everyday life now moved under a pall of grief and uncertainty. In the wake of the children's abduction, the streets of New Avalon had transformed into corridors of despair, their echoes haunted by vanished laughter and unanswered questions. The very air felt heavier, as if burdened by collective loss, and every corner concealed memories of happier times now eclipsed by sorrow. Lena Reyes moved through the city's ruins with measured steps, her mind a swirling mix of determination and despair. The command center had dispersed into makeshift shelters, where families huddled and strangers sought solace in shared misery. It was here, in the underbelly of this fractured metropolis, that Lena found herself piecing together fragments of intelligence. She joined forces with Captain Marcus Hale, a veteran officer whose steely eyes belied the grief he carried from past wars, and Dr. Nia Kapoor, a brilliant scientist whose empathy was matched only by her relentless curiosity. Each bore scars, both seen and unseen, from previous battles that now seemed minuscule in comparison to the loss they all faced. Walking the narrow corridors of a repurposed school gym turned refuge, Lena caught snippets of hushed conversations. "They came out of nowhere, like a shadow over our lives," one parent murmured, barely audible above the murmur of subdued voices. Another whispered, "Who would dare steal our future?" The questions echoed in every corner, each one a desperate plea for understanding. Within the refuge, a flicker of hope emerged in the form of an old bulletin board where scattered intelligence reports had been pinned. Among them, a cryptic note scribbled in hurried handwriting mentioned strange energy readings detected hours before the abduction. Dr. Kapoor's eyes lit up as she examined the note, her fingers trembling with excitement. "This might be a clue," she said softly to Captain Hale, who nodded gravely. "We have to follow every lead," he replied, his tone resolute despite the sorrow that weighed on his features. As twilight deepened into a starless night, Lena gathered her small band of survivors in a corner of the shelter. Around a battered table illuminated by a single flickering lamp, they mapped out the events of that fateful morning. "Every second counts," Lena urged, her voice steady yet laced with pain. "We cannot allow fear to paralyze us. We owe it to our children to learn why this happened." The group listened intently, their faces a mix of defiance and despair, each silently vowing to reclaim what had been stolen from them. Over the following days, the team embarked on painstaking efforts to understand the invaders' technology. They scoured abandoned research facilities and contacted retired experts who had once danced on the edges of classified projects. In one such encounter, an elderly engineer recalled, "I never imagined our wildest theories would be challenged by something not of this earth." His voice trembled between awe and fear, mirroring the inner conflict felt by many who had believed humanity's destiny was firmly rooted in the familiar. Yet, amid the technical decryption and painstaking analysis, the human element shone through. Marcus Hale, with a deep-seated sense of duty hardened over years of conflict, often spent long nights at the makeshift headquarters, poring over satellite images and energy signatures. During one such late-night vigil, he confided to Lena, "Every time I close my eyes, I see the face of a child I once swore to protect. Now I'm haunted by what I couldn't save." Lena reached out, placing a firm hand on his shoulder, silently conveying that his pain was shared, and that in their unity there might yet be redemption. The more the team uncovered, the more questions arose. Intercepted communications hinted at a vast network of alien outposts, and whispered rumors suggested that the children might be part of a larger experiment. What was the invaders' endgame? Were these abductions a prelude to something even greater, a systematic erasure of the human legacy? Every theory carried the weight of desperation and uncertainty, yet also a burning need to expose the truth. In quiet moments when the cacophony of fear and grief dimmed, Lena found herself wandering the empty streets at dawn. The city, now a canvas of muted colors and silent monuments to a lost innocence, beckoned her to remember its once vibrant soul. It was in these solitary walks that she vowed to transform the shared despair into a clarion call for resistance, a promise that the darkness would soon give way to a dawn of reckoning. In the shadows of despair, amid whispers of a future that seemed to crumble with every unanswered question, humanity began to weave its story of resilience. With every discovered clue, every shared tear, and every spark of defiant hope, the people of New Avalon prepared to step into the unknown. They understood that the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but also that in their unity and unyielding spirit lay the strength to fight back against an enemy that sought to erase their very future. And so, with hearts heavy yet resolute, Lena, Marcus, and Dr. Kapoor, along with every soul who had lost so much, prepared to move forward. For even in the darkest shadows, the seeds of rebellion were sown, promising that every stolen moment would eventually be reclaimed and every question answered in the unfolding saga of humanity's fight for its future. A heavy silence had settled over the command center, broken only by the steady hum of computers and the occasional murmur of anxious voices. Lena Reyes sat at a cluttered table strewn with decoded fragments, intercepted signals, and hastily scribbled notes. Dr. Nia Kapoor's eyes were fixed on a holographic projection of alien script, a labyrinth of symbols that defied immediate understanding. Across from them, Captain Marcus Hale tapped a rhythmic pattern on a digital pad, his mind racing with theories. "It's as if they're speaking in riddles," Dr. Kapoor mused, her voice a mix of wonder and frustration. "Every intercepted transmission seems to hide layers beneath layers of meaning. Look here, this sequence appears repeatedly. I believe it's a timestamp or a coordinate." Marcus leaned over, squinting at the projection. "A coordinate?" he asked. "But to what end? The children, they're not random casualties. They must be part of a larger design." Lena's gaze hardened as she recalled the anguish of that fateful morning. "We assumed they were taken merely as a show of power," she said, her tone low. "But maybe this is about shaping our future, by removing what they consider our most valuable asset." As the team pored over the data, a sudden alert flashed on the main console. An incoming transmission, one that bypassed standard encryption. Dr. Kapoor's fingers danced over the keyboard, isolating the signal. "I'm isolating the channel," she announced. "This one, it's different." The decoded message was terse, punctuated by cryptic symbols and an eerie cadence. Future seeds harvested, timeline realigned. Await the convergence. A cold shiver ran down Lena's spine. "Timeline realigned?" she echoed. What did they mean by that? Before anyone could answer, the door to the command center swung open with a resonant clang. A shadowed figure entered, a man in a worn leather jacket, his eyes scanning the room with a mixture of urgency and caution. "I'm Julian," he said, his voice gravely yet sincere. "I've been tracking these signals for months. You're not the only ones who noticed the pattern." Marcus straightened, wary yet intrigued. "How do you know our situation?" he demanded. Julian paused, glancing at the scattered documents. "I was part of a research collective dedicated to understanding anomalous space-time signals. When the abductions happened, I suspected it was more than a simple raid. I've been decoding fragments of these messages in secret ever since." Dr. Kapoor's eyes sparkled, with a mix of relief and curiosity. "Show us what you've got," she urged. Julian pulled out a compact device projecting additional data onto the table. "There's a hidden layer in their communication, a temporal marker that suggests the aliens are not just abducting children, but selecting individuals with a particular genetic or cognitive signature. They're engineering a new trajectory for your civilization." Lena's heart pounded as she absorbed the revelation. "You're saying that our children are chosen?" she asked, her voice trembling between disbelief and a fierce determination. "Chosen for what? To be raised by our enemy?" Julian shook his head slowly. "Not raised," he replied, "but transformed. There are rumors, whispers, that the children might be groomed to become vessels of an entirely new kind of consciousness, a future where humanity's destiny is no longer its own." A heavy silence fell over the room as each person processed the gravity of his words. Marcus finally broke the tension. "If that's true, then we're not just fighting to bring them back, we're fighting to reclaim our very identity." Dr. Kapoor's fingers hovered over the holographic interface. "We need to cross-reference this with every known anomaly in their transmissions," she said urgently. "There might be a pattern, a hidden timeline we can intercept." As she worked feverishly, Lena paced near the window, watching the darkened skyline and the ominous glow of the hovering alien craft. "Every moment counts," she murmured. "They're reshaping our future, one child at a time, and if we don't understand their plan, we're doomed to follow it." Julian's voice softened as he added, "There's more. I've intercepted a secondary message, a faint echo in the data stream that suggests a convergence. It's as if a meeting point in time is being engineered, where everything changes. That might be our only chance to disrupt their plans." The revelation stirred a mix of hope and dread. Lena stopped pacing and faced her newfound ally. "We need to act fast," she declared. "Our next steps are crucial." Dr. Kapoor dived deeper into that timeline marker. "Marcus, mobilize a team for reconnaissance. Julian, help us pinpoint that convergence before it's too late." The team rallied together, united by a shared purpose. Amid the coded transmissions and cryptic prophecies lay a sliver of hope, a chance to reclaim the future from those who sought to rewrite destiny. With each passing moment, the whispers of the future grew louder, beckoning them into a confrontation that would test the very limits of their resolve. And as the night deepened around the command center, Lena knew one thing for certain. The war for humanity's future had taken on a new, insidious dimension, and there was no turning back. In the dim glow of an improvised operations center, humanity's resolve began to transform despair into purpose. The command center, now a converted industrial warehouse, buzzed with activity. Makeshift stations lined the walls, each manned by engineers, ex-soldiers, and ordinary citizens who'd taken up arms for a cause larger than themselves. The alien threat had torn the fabric of society apart, but in its wake, something unexpected had emerged. The unyielding spark of human ingenuity. Lena Reyes stood at the center of the chaos, her eyes scanning rows of schematics and hastily drawn battle plans. Dr. Nia Kapoor, fingers flying over a patched-together console, monitored streams of intercepted alien signals. "We're adapting their technology faster than they can update their protocols," she declared, excitement mixing with urgency. Marcus Hale, now in command of the rapidly assembling ground forces, approached with a determined stride. "Lena, we've mobilized several units to scout the perimeter," he reported. "Our engineers have even reverse-engineered a basic energy shield from captured fragments." His voice carried a blend of pride and the weight of responsibility. A man who'd seen both the brutality of war and the promise of a unified front. Lena nodded, her gaze hardening with conviction. "Every minute we delay, more of our future is stolen," she said. "We cannot allow them to reshape our destiny without a fight." In one corner, Julian, the enigmatic signal tracker, huddled with a group of tech experts, piecing together the mysterious temporal markers from the alien transmissions. "If we can synchronize our attack with their convergence point," he mused aloud, "we might be able to disrupt their timeline adjustment." His words, though laced with hope, were met with skeptical murmurs. "Disrupt their timeline?" asked one of the younger technicians, eyes wide as he processed the implications. "That's a gamble with forces we barely understand." Julian met the technician's gaze firmly. "It's our only shot," he replied. "If they're altering the future, then our actions now have to be precise. We must strike while they're off balance." As the night deepened, Lena convened a strategy session with her inner circle. Gathered around a rugged wooden table, maps and digital displays illuminated their faces. "Our intelligence suggests that the aliens' outposts are not randomly placed," Lena began, her tone measured. "They're strategic nodes, vital to their plan. If we can disable these nodes, we might force them into a retreat." Marcus leaned forward. "That means we need to hit them hard, fast, and in multiple locations simultaneously," he stated. "Our scouts have identified at least 3 primary nodes. We'll need teams for diversion and teams for the direct strike." Dr. Kapoor interjected, her voice filled with both hope and caution. "We're also tracking a peculiar energy surge linked to one of these nodes. It could be a power source, or worse, a time-altering device. If we disrupt that, we might destabilize their entire operation. A tense silence fell over the room as the enormity of the plan set in. Then, Lena broke the quiet with steely resolve. We're not just reclaiming what was stolen, we're reclaiming our future. Every sacrifice, every lost child, it fuels our determination now. Over the following hours, teams dispersed into the city's underbelly, navigating through darkened alleyways and abandoned structures repurposed as hideouts. The makeshift soldiers shared whispered words of encouragement and quiet prayers, their resolve forged in the shared memory of loss and the promise of retribution. In one heated briefing at a commandeered communications hub, Marcus addressed his assembled unit. "Remember," he said, his voice echoing against concrete walls, "we're not just fighting aliens. We're fighting to ensure that our children, our future, aren't turned into instruments for a tyrannical experiment. We're the architects of our destiny." A murmur of determined assent swept through the room, the tension momentarily replaced by a collective surge of purpose. Back at the operations center, Lena and Dr. Kapoor worked on integrating alien technology with human design. "This hybrid energy matrix might be our ace in the hole," Dr. Kapoor explained, pointing to a schematic that looked almost alien in its complexity. "If we can adapt it for defensive and offensive systems, we might level the playing field." Lena's eyes sparkled with a mixture of hope and determination as she replied, "Then let's build a future where fear is replaced by strength." In the flickering light of improvised monitors, the human spirit burned fiercely. Each innovation, every new weapon crafted from the ruins of their former world, was a testament to resilience. Amid the uncertainty and danger, the team's unity became their greatest asset. Every plan forged in the heat of desperation was a promise that humanity, rising from the ashes of despair, would not be subjugated. As dawn crept over the horizon, illuminating the scars of battle on the city's battered facades, Lena took a moment to reflect. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but in every determined face, she saw the resolve of a people unwilling to surrender. "Today," she murmured quietly to herself, "we fight not just for survival, but for the future we will build together." And with that, the spark of rebellion blazed brighter than ever, a rallying cry that echoed across the silent, waiting city. The night was cold and heavy with tension, every shadow in New Avalon whispering of retribution. In the command center, a converted underground bunker, the final briefing was in full swing. Lena Reyes stood at the head of a scarred metal table, its surface cluttered with maps, schematics, and hastily scrawled orders. Her voice, firm yet edged with raw determination, broke the silence. "Tonight, we reclaim what's been stolen. Our target is the alien outpost on the eastern fringes of the city. This is our first strike, and it must count." Captain Marcus Hale, standing beside her with a steely gaze, added, "We have 3 teams. Alpha creates a diversion at the main gate, Bravo breaches the central control, and Charlie secures the perimeter. Our objective is to disable their communications and extract any intel that can reveal their long-term plan." His tone carried the weight of countless lost futures and the urgency of the moment. As the teams dispersed into the inky darkness, Lena climbed into a commandeered transport vehicle alongside Julian and a tactical squad. The deserted streets were silent except for the distant hum of engines and the soft echo of their determined footsteps. "Keep your eyes open," Julian murmured, tapping a series of coordinates into his handheld device. They could be lying in wait. The tension was palpable, a blend of adrenaline and sorrow that electrified every breath. Reaching the outpost, a sprawling, pulsating structure of shifting, iridescent hues, the team halted at the perimeter. Through binoculars, Lena could see alien sentries patrolling the outer walls with an almost mechanical precision. "Team Bravo, move in quietly," she whispered into her comm link. The order was crisp, charged with the weight of responsibility. Suddenly, a distant explosion shattered the silence. Over the comm, a voice crackled. "Alpha Team, execute diversion now." Explosions erupted on the far side of the compound, sending plumes of dust and fire skyward. "They're falling for it." Marcus's voice boomed across the channels. "Keep the pressure on." Inside the outpost, the corridors were a labyrinth of eerie, pulsating lights and alien inscriptions. Lena led her unit through narrow passageways, the tension mounting with every cautious step. A sudden hiss of plasma cut through the dark silence as an alien guard lunged at them. "Cover me," Lena shouted. One of her soldiers fired a well-aimed shot, and the attacker collapsed with a sharp metallic clang. Amid the chaos, Julian's device emitted a series of rapid beeps. "Incoming transmission," he called out. The static cleared to reveal a fragment of alien speech layered over mechanical whirs. "Future seeds harvested, nexus compromised." Lena's heart skipped a beat. That message, it confirms our worst fears. They're not just abducting children, they're engineering a new order. Before she could process further, a group of alien reinforcements stormed the corridor. "Ambush! Take cover!" one of Lena's soldiers yelled. The team dove behind crumbling walls and scattered debris, exchanging fire with relentless precision. Marcus's voice, steady and commanding over the comm, cut through the bedlam. "Hold the line. Remember, we're here to disable their nexus, not to eliminate every foe." Navigating through twisting hallways, Lena's unit reached the central control chamber, a vast, dim room dominated by a pulsating core of crystalline structures and holographic interfaces. The alien technology, incomprehensible yet mesmerizing, filled the space with an otherworldly glow. Lena approached the main console cautiously, her fingers brushing over the sleek alien surface as she sought a way to infiltrate their system. "Dr. Kapoor's algorithms are our key," she whispered into her comm. "We need to destabilize their network now." Just then, a hulking figure emerged from the shadows, a high-ranking alien officer, taller and more imposing than any soldier they had encountered. His eyes glowed with a cold, calculated light as he addressed Lena in a deep, resonant tone. "Humans," he intoned, his voice echoing in the cavernous room, "why do you cling to a doomed future?" Lena met his gaze without faltering. "Our future isn't doomed. It's ours to shape," she retorted, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. The alien's extended hand, a gesture that was both ominous and curiously deliberate, signaled an offer of parley. For a moment, the battle's chaos seemed to pause in a surreal standoff between two opposing destinies. Before Lena could reply, the entire structure shuddered violently, a result of the diversion outside taking its toll. Alarms blared as the crystalline nexus flickered erratically. "We've got instability on the grid," Julian shouted over the comlink. "Now, Lena!" Marcus's urgent voice came next, urging her to act. With a swift motion born of desperation and resolve, Lena activated the override on the console. Streams of code, crafted from a fusion of human innovation and captured alien data, cascaded over the holographic display. "This is for every stolen future," she cried, slamming her hand down on the final key. The room filled with a surge of energy as the system began to unravel. The alien officer recoiled, his control over the nexus faltering. "Your primitive code disrupts our command," he conceded, a note of reluctant respect in his tone. "But your resistance is merely the beginning." As more alien guards converged on the chamber, Lena barked an order. "Team! Fall back! Regroup at the extraction point now!" The corridors erupted into frenzied combat once again, as Lena's unit retreated amidst the crumbling remains of the alien stronghold. Marcus's voice provided a steady beacon through the turmoil. "We fought hard tonight. This isn't a defeat. It's our first victory in a war for our future." Bruised but unbowed, Lena clutched the retrieved data, a spark of hope amid the overwhelming darkness. As the outpost's lights dimmed and the echoes of battle faded into the night, the soldiers gathered in the safety of the underground tunnels. The first battle had been fierce and fraught with loss, yet it had ignited a fire that no alien force could extinguish. In that defiant moment, humanity's resilience shone through, setting the stage for the long, arduous war to come. The night was as dark as the void beyond the stars, and the only light came from the pulsating neon of the alien stronghold's perimeter. Lena, Marcus, Julian, and a small elite team, veterans hardened by loss and fueled by unyielding determination, gathered in a secluded alley. Their faces were set, expressions a mix of resolve and trepidation. Tonight they would infiltrate the enemy's heart and rescue the abducted children. Remember? Lena whispered as she adjusted her stealth gear. Every step we take is a step towards reclaiming our future. Her voice was both command and comfort. Marcus clapped her on the shoulder. We do this together, he assured, his tone low but steady. Julian, eyes flickering with data from his handheld device, added, I've mapped out the patrol patterns. There's a 10-minute window before the next rotation. We must move fast and silent. Slipping through the shadows, the team reached a concealed entry, a service hatch barely visible beneath tangled vines and urban decay. This is our door, murmured Nina, a sharp-eyed reconnaissance specialist. With practiced precision, she disabled the locking mechanism using a modified EMP device, and the hatch creaked open into a narrow passageway. One by one, they descended into the dim corridors of the alien structure. Inside, the corridors were a labyrinth of reflective walls and cryptic symbols that pulsed in time with an unseen energy. The air was heavy with a strange, almost tangible hum that set everyone's nerves on edge. Stay alert, Lena cautioned through the comlink. We don't know what lurks in these halls. As they moved cautiously, the team encountered their first obstacle, a corridor lined with energy barriers that flickered in intermittent patterns. Julian's voice came through, urgent and focused. I've got the sequence. Barriers go down every 90 seconds for a 20-second window. We need to time our advance perfectly. Marcus nodded, his hand steady on his sidearm. Let's keep it tight and silent. No room for mistakes. They waited in the shadows until the first barrier blinked off, then sprinted forward. The silence was abruptly shattered by an alarm-like chime echoing through the corridor. Intruder alert! Boomed a synthesized voice in an alien tongue. The team exchanged tense glances as automated turrets emerged from the walls, swiveling toward their position. In a burst of adrenaline, Lena shouted, Suppressive fire! Now! Marcus and two soldiers unleashed a hail of improvised plasma rounds, while Lena and Nina dove for cover behind a massive rune-carved column. The corridor erupted into chaos as the turrets tracked moving targets, and Marcus's voice rang out, Hold your fire until I disable the turret control panel. Amid the firefight, Julian crouched by a console embedded in the wall, fingers dancing over its controls. I'm overriding the security grid, he announced, tension thick in his tone. Within seconds, the turrets slowed, then ceased their barrage. A heavy silence fell over the corridor, broken only by the labored breathing of the infiltrators. That was too close, Nina remarked, glancing at Lena with a mix of relief and lingering fear. Lena nodded, her eyes fixed on the passage ahead. We can't afford any more surprises. The children must be nearby. They advanced deeper, guided by Julian's steady narration of sensor data. Soon they reached a massive chamber dimly lit by bioluminescent panels. Rows of containment cells lined the walls, each one guarded by a lone sentinel, a creature that, despite its alien form, exhibited an eerie sense of duty. In the center of the room, behind a reinforced barrier, a group of frightened children huddled together. The sight ignited a surge of hope and fury in Lena's heart. On my mark! She whispered into the comlink. Marcus, Nina, secure the perimeter. Julian, I need you to hack into the barrier controls. We have to open these cells before the guards realize we're here. As Marcus and Nina took up defensive positions, Julian's nimble fingers flew over a portable terminal. I'm in, he announced softly. Suddenly, the central barrier flickered, and a deep mechanical hum reverberated. A guard rounded the corner just as the panel began to open. Stop right there, the guard bellowed in broken human dialect, shock evident in his voice. Lena sprang into action. Cover him, she shouted, drawing her sidearm. In the ensuing moments, chaos reigned, a flurry of shots, desperate shouts, and the metallic clang of skirmish. Marcus intercepted the guard with a swift, decisive strike, his fist connecting with a resounding thud. Meanwhile, Nina slid past another approaching sentinel, expertly disabling its targeting sensors. Inside the chamber, the children began to stir as the cell door creaked open. One timid voice asked, Are you here to save us? Lena knelt beside a trembling boy and replied, Yes, we're here. You're safe now. The reassurance sparked a fragile smile, a beacon of hope in the midst of the turmoil. But the victory was short-lived. The sound of reinforcements echoed down the corridor, a steady, ominous march that signaled more aliens converging on their location. "They're coming!" Marcus shouted, his voice rising above the fray. Lena's eyes widened as she assessed the situation. They were trapped between the newly freed children and the incoming enemy forces. "Julian, any way to buy us time?" Lena demanded, her voice taut with urgency. Julian's response was immediate. "I can trigger an overload on the power conduits down this hall. It'll create a temporary blackout, but it might just give us the cover we need to escape." Without hesitation, Lena nodded. "Do it," she ordered. Julian connected his device to a nearby terminal, his hand steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "Now!" he cried as he initiated the overload sequence. In moments, the chamber's lights flickered and went dark, plunging the area into near-total darkness. The startled aliens hesitated, and Lena seized the moment. "Move out," she commanded over the comlink, her voice echoing in the darkness. The team, along with the rescued children, surged toward a secondary exit identified by Julian. Behind them, the chaos resumed as disoriented aliens scrambled in the sudden blackout. The pounding of enemy boots grew louder, and the sound of blaster fire resonated as the battle escalated. Bursting through the exit, Lena and her team raced down a narrow corridor lined with alien glyphs, each step propelling them further from the heart of the stronghold and closer to freedom. "Keep moving," Marcus roared as he led the way, determined to shield the children at all costs. Every moment was a fight for survival. The corridors twisted unpredictably, and behind each corner lurked the threat of capture or worse. But fueled by the collective hope of a reclaimed future, the team pressed on. Lena's mind raced with the magnitude of what they had just accomplished and what lay ahead. They had defied the odds, stepping into the lion's den to liberate the future itself. As they finally reached a secured extraction point, the distant sounds of alien reinforcements faded into a chaotic murmur. Breathing heavily, Lena looked back at the path they had traversed. "This is just the beginning," she murmured, determination burning in her eyes. "Tonight, we've taken the first step to reclaim our future, no matter what it takes." A pall of uncertainty hung over the battered command center as dawn's first light crept through shattered windows. The battle had escalated beyond mere skirmishes, and the team now found themselves deep within the enemy mothership, a labyrinth of biomechanical corridors where every step could be their last. The weight of loss and betrayal bore down on Lena as she led her remaining squad through dim, echoing passageways. The silence broken only by the distant rumble of alien engines and the sporadic crackle of damaged systems. In a vast chamber pulsing with eerie luminescence, Lena's eyes scanned the monitors displaying fractured holographic images of alien formations. The data they had gathered over the past days revealed a single, horrifying truth. The alien nexus, the heart of their power, was within reach. Yet as the team advanced, a gnawing suspicion crept into Lena's mind, a sense that one among them was not as steadfast as they appeared. Within the haze of adrenaline and fear, fragments of betrayal surfaced like ghostly whispers. In a cramped corridor, evidence of clandestine transmissions flickered on a portable console, a trail that led directly to Julian. The mysterious signal tracker, who had once been their beacon of hope, had been feeding critical tactical data back to an unknown source. The revelation stung like acid, and Lena's heart pounded with a mixture of grief and cold fury. The ambush came swiftly, as the team navigated a narrow passage lined with conduits that pulsed with raw energy, automated defenses activated with relentless precision. Bolts of alien plasma sliced through the air. In the ensuing chaos, Lena's instincts took over. She vaulted over debris, her combat knife gleaming under sporadic emergency lighting, every sense heightened in the maelstrom of combat. The corridors became a war zone, a maelstrom of shattered metal and desperate resistance. Minimal words were exchanged amid the bedlam, a stifled cry here, a terse order there. "Fall back," Lena barked as an unseen sniper's shot narrowly missed her shoulder. Her team obeyed, scattering into the twisting passageways. Amid the disarray, she caught a glimpse of Julian near a control console, His eyes, once brimming with determination, now flickered with something darker, a calculation that betrayed his true loyalties. In a single silent moment, Lena realized that the enemy had found an inside conduit. The trust they had placed in him was a fatal error. As she pressed forward, Lena's mind raced with the enormity of their predicament. The alien nexus loomed ahead, a colossal chamber where technology and organic matter merged in grotesque harmony. Every step toward it felt like a march toward destiny, one that was being manipulated by forces both external and, shockingly, within. She steeled herself as her team fought desperately to cover her advance. In the background, the clamor of alien reinforcements grew louder, the metallic thud of booted soldiers echoing ominously down the corridors. With a surge of determined energy, Lena pressed onward. The corridor opened into the central Nexus chamber, a space that throbbed with raw power and foreboding potential. The alien technology here was unlike anything they had encountered, a swirling vortex of energy that pulsed in tandem with the ship's beating heart. In that surreal moment, betrayal and duty collided within her. The data stolen from Julian's transmissions now served as both a warning and a key. It revealed not only the Nexus's vulnerability, but also the possibility of turning it against the invaders. Time blurred as Lena and her remaining fighters engaged in a ferocious struggle. Bullets and plasma bolts intermingled with the hiss of collapsing structures. Amid the violent clamor, Lena's eyes locked onto a control terminal, a lifeline to the Nexus. Without hesitation, she dove for it, her fingers dancing across the alien interface. The terminal's holographic display flickered, revealing a cascade of codes that promised either salvation or annihilation. In that desperate moment, every instinct screamed for retribution. The betrayal by Julian, the countless losses, and the stolen futures of their children converged into a singular purpose. With one final resolute keystroke, Lena initiated a disruptive surge through the Nexus, a calculated gamble to collapse the alien power grid. The chamber shuddered violently as torrents of energy surged outward, consuming the delicate balance of the invaders' technology. The resulting explosion was cataclysmic, a blinding flash that tore through the chamber and sent shockwaves rippling through the ship. Amid the chaos, Lena barely had time to register the devastation. The alien reinforcements faltered, their formation disintegrating as the overload consumed their command structure. Yet, even as victory began to glimmer on the horizon, the cost was etched in every scar and every silent, haunted gaze among her comrades. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the ship's inner workings faltered into disarray, Lena stood amid the ruin, grief and determination mingling in her eyes. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also steeled her resolve. The price of tomorrow had been paid in blood and treachery, and every life lost was a debt that demanded redemption. With a heavy heart and a mind set on the final confrontation, she prepared to lead her fractured band into the next and ultimately final phase of their struggle. The battle for their future was nearly over, and even in the face of betrayal, humanity's defiant spirit would not be extinguished. The final battle had begun, and the alien mothership shuddered under the force of human resolve. Dawn broke over a fractured sky as Lena Reyes and her united forces gathered on the edge of the alien hangar bay, a cavernous space pulsing with ominous energy. Every soldier, every technician, and every rescued child clung to the hope of a future reclaimed. The air vibrated with tension and the low hum of alien machinery, as if the ship itself sensed the impending reckoning. Lena's eyes, hardened by loss yet lit with unyielding determination, swept over her assembled troops. "Today," she murmured, almost to herself, "we end their tyranny. We reclaim our future." In the hushed moments before the assault, there was a solemn understanding among them, a final stand against the darkness that had stolen their children, their memories, and their hope. With a roar that shook the metal walls, the assault commenced. Human forces surged forward in a coordinated wave of grit and innovation. Hybrid weapons, born from the union of captured alien technology and human ingenuity, blazed as they met the enemy head-on. Plasma bolts and energy shields lit up the expansive hangar, each explosion a defiant heartbeat in humanity's fight for survival. Lena led the vanguard, her steps sure despite the chaos. She dodged shards of debris and alien fire alike as she pressed towards the central control hub of the mothership. There, embedded within a lattice of biomechanical conduits, lay the nexus controlling the alien armada. Every moment counted. The fate of countless lives hinged on her ability to disrupt their power at its core. The corridors between the hangar bay and the nexus chamber were a maelstrom of combat. In one passageway, battered soldiers fought desperately against swarming alien drones. Amid the clash, Lena caught sight of Marcus Hale, a stalwart figure leading a squad in a fierce counterattack against a column of heavily armored alien troopers. Their eyes met for a brief second. No words were needed to exchange solidarity. Around them, explosions rocked the corridor, and the air thickened with acrid smoke as the battle intensified. In the Nexus chamber, the atmosphere was surreal. A vast chamber filled with pulsing energy cores and holographic interfaces that shimmered like ghostly visions. Julian's earlier betrayal still lingered like a bitter aftertaste, yet his earlier warning and data had proved invaluable. Now every remaining human fighter knew that this moment was the fulcrum upon which their entire struggle would pivot. Lena advanced toward the central console. The chamber trembled with alien power, and every step reverberated as though echoing through the very heart of the enemy. Minimal dialogue was exchanged in the midst of the onslaught. Instead, there was only the language of determination, the unspoken pledge that every sacrifice would not be in vain. She recalled the faces of the lost children, the screams of grief, and the promise she made to herself and her people. No more futures would be stolen. At the console, Lena's fingers flew across the alien interface, her mind racing as she applied every lesson learned from previous skirmishes. The system resisted at first, its defenses clashing with the hybrid code engineered by Dr. Naya Kapoor. Sparks flew, and the chamber's energy surged erratically as if protesting this new intrusion. Outside, the tide of battle raged, a cacophony of shouts, blasts, and the roar of defiant human hearts. A deep, resonant alarm suddenly blared from the console. In that instant, Lena knew the enemy was throwing everything they had into the fray. The Nexus's stability wavered, and a torrent of raw energy threatened to tear the chamber apart. Yet Lena remained unyielding. With one final, deliberate keystroke, she initiated the override sequence. Streams of cascading code rippled across the display as the alien system began to crumble under the relentless assault of human innovation. In the midst of the struggle, a squad of elite fighters, led by Marcus, burst into the chamber. They secured the perimeter and suppressed the alien reinforcements with a flurry of coordinated fire. The sound of energy weapons and the metallic clatter of combat filled every corner, and time itself seemed to slow as the Nexus faltered. A massive surge of energy burst forth from the console, a shockwave that radiated outward, disrupting the alien network and sending shockwaves through the mothership. Panels shattered, conduits sparked violently, and the once imposing control room was thrown into disarray. The alien forces, deprived of their central command, faltered, their organized assault devolving into chaotic retreat. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, silence reigned in the Nexus chamber as the alien ship's systems began to shut down. Lena stood amid the ruins, her chest heaving with exhaustion and triumph mingled together. Every scar, every drop of blood spilled on the battlefield had led to this moment, a moment of clarity amid the ruins of oppression. Outside, the battle turned in humanity's favor. The remaining alien warships, now disoriented by the collapse of their command structure, retreated into the void of space. Human fighters, bolstered by their victory on the mothership, surged forward to secure the vessel. The rescued children, once held captive in cold, unfeeling cells, were now safely ushered away by weary but resolute medics. Lena's gaze swept across the horizon as she stood on the ramp of the mothership, watching the alien fleet scatter like frightened shadows. In that moment, the realization washed over her. The future was theirs to shape. The sacrifices of countless heroes, those lost in battle, those betrayed, and those who had given everything, had not been in vain. Humanity had taken back what was rightfully theirs. A hushed murmur of celebration began to rise among the troops. Amid the ruins of alien technology and the echoes of conflict, Lena allowed herself a brief smile, a smile that was as much a promise as it was a victory. She turned to Marcus, whose tired eyes shone with pride and relief, and nodded. No grand speeches were needed. The victory was written in every exhausted, grateful smile, in every resolute step taken toward rebuilding. As the mothership's once terrifying heart dimmed into silence, Lena reflected on the arduous journey that had brought them here. The battles fought, the betrayals endured, and the sacrifices made had forged a future that now belonged to humanity. In that final, resounding moment of triumph, as the alien threat receded into the depths of space, Lena and her people embraced a future reborn, a future where hope prevailed over terror, and where every stolen dream would be reclaimed. They had taken back their future.